The rain was coming down in sheets, mirroring the storm inside me. I stood at the window of our Seattle apartment, the Space Needle a blurred silhouette in the distance. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. On the screen was a text message, a message that had ripped my world apart. "Can't wait to see you tonight, handsome. Meet me at the usual place. XOXO, Rowena." Rowena was my wife, my Rowena. We'd been married for 15 years. 15 years of laughter, shared dreams, and what I thought was unwavering love. I am Torin, by the way. I work as a software architect. I'm 46 years old. Never in a million years would I have suspected Rowena of cheating. Our life wasn't perfect, of course. We had our ups and downs like any couple. But we always talked things through, always supported each other. Or so I thought. Now the foundation of everything I believed in was crumbling beneath my feet. I'd been suspicious for a while, I'll admit. Rowena, who works as a marketing director, had been distant lately, working late more often, and her phone was always glued to her hand. When I'd ask her about it, she'd brush it off, saying she was busy with a big project. I wanted to believe her, I truly did. But then last night, she left her phone on the kitchen counter while she went to take a shower. Against my better judgment, I picked it up. I told myself I was just checking the time, but the truth is, I was looking for something, anything, to confirm my suspicions. And that's when I saw it, that text message from Rowena. I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. The air left my lungs and I stumbled backward, knocking over a stack of cookbooks. The clatter didn't even register. All I could see was that message, over and over again, burning itself into my brain. I sank into a chair, my head spinning. Who was this handsome she was meeting? And what was the usual place? I spent the rest of the night tossing and turning, replaying every moment of our relationship in my head, searching for clues I might have missed. Had she been unhappy for a long time? Had I failed her somehow? The questions swirled around me, relentless and unforgiving. This morning, I decided I couldn't live with the uncertainty any longer. I had to know the truth. So I did something I never thought I was capable of. I followed her. Rowena left for work as usual a little after 8. I waited about 15 minutes, then slipped out of the apartment, keeping a safe distance behind her. She drove to her office downtown, but instead of going inside, she parked across the street and waited. My heart pounded in my chest as I watched her. Who was she waiting for? After about 10 minutes, a car pulled up beside her. A sleek, black sports car. The driver rolled down the window and my blood ran cold. It was Theron, one of her colleagues. He was leaning over talking to her, and I could see the way he looked at her, the way she smiled back, a smile I hadn't seen in years. They talked for a few minutes. Then Theron got out of the car and Rowena slid over to the passenger seat. He got back in and they drove off. I followed them, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. They drove to a small, secluded motel on the outskirts of the city. The kind of place you wouldn't take your worst enemy. I parked down the street, my mind reeling. This couldn't be happening, not to me, not to us. I sat there for what felt like an eternity, watching the motel room, waiting for them to come out. I imagined confronting them, screaming, demanding answers. But I knew that wouldn't solve anything. I needed proof, solid proof, before I could confront Rowena, so I waited. The rain continued to fall, washing over the city, washing over me. I felt numb, hollowed out. The woman I loved, the woman I had built my life with, was betraying me in the most cruel and intimate way possible. Finally, after what seemed like hours, they emerged from the motel room. Theron kissed Rowena goodbye, then got back in his car and drove away. Rowena stood there for a moment watching him go, then turned and walked back to her car. I followed her home, my heart a lead weight in my chest. She went inside and I parked down the street, trying to gather my thoughts. I knew I couldn't pretend anymore. I had to confront her. I took a deep breath and walked to our apartment. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. Rowena was in the kitchen making dinner. "Hey, honey," she said, turning to me with a smile. "How was your day?" Her voice was like a knife twisting in my gut. How could she act like everything was normal? "Rowena, we need to talk," I said, my voice trembling. She frowned. "What's wrong? You look terrible." "I know about Theron," I said, the words tumbling out of my mouth. Her face paled. "Well, what are you talking about? I followed you today, Rowena. I saw you at the motel. I know everything." She didn't say anything for a moment, then her shoulders slumped. "Oh, Torin," she said, her voice barely a whisper. I'm so sorry, sorry, I yelled, my anger finally erupting. Is that all you have to say? Sorry. You've been cheating on me, Rowena. You've been lying to me for God knows how long. How could you do this to me? To us. She started to cry. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said. It just happened, it just happened. I repeated, incredulous. You went to a motel with him, Rowena. That doesn't just happen, I know, she sobbed. But I'm not happy, Torin, I haven't been happy for a long time, and cheating on me was the answer, I asked, my voice dripping with sarcasm. That's how you solve your problems, Rowena. By betraying the person who loves you, she didn't answer. She just stood there, crying, her face a mask of guilt and shame. I couldn't look at her anymore. I turned and walked out of the apartment, slamming the door behind me. I spent the night in a cheap hotel, the kind of place where the sheets are scratchy and the walls are paper-thin. I didn't sleep a wink. All I could think about was Rowena and Theron and the 15 years we had spent together, now reduced to nothing but a lie. The next morning I went back to the apartment. Rowena was still there, looking pale and exhausted. We need to talk about this, she said. There's nothing to talk about, I said. It's over, Rowena. I want a divorce. She started to cry again. Please, Torin, she begged, don't do this. I'll do anything to make it right. I'll quit my job, I'll go to therapy, it's too late, Rowena, I said. You broke my trust. You broke my heart. I can never forgive you. I filed for divorce that day. The process was long and painful, but I got through it. I moved out of the apartment and found a small house on the other side of the city. I threw myself into my work, trying to forget about Rowena, trying to forget about the pain. It wasn't easy. There were days when I couldn't get out of bed, days when I felt like I was drowning in sorrow. But I kept going, one day at a time. I started exercising, I started painting again, something I hadn't done in years. I reconnected with old friends and made new ones. Slowly, gradually, I started to heal. I realized that Rowena's betrayal wasn't a reflection of me, but a reflection of her. She was the one who had made the choice to cheat, to lie, to betray. I was the victim, not the perpetrator. About a year after the divorce, I ran into a mutual friend, Llewellyn, at a coffee shop. We hadn't spoken in months, and I was surprised to see him. Hey, Torin, he said. How are you doing? I'm doing okay, I said. How about you? Not so great, actually, he said. I just heard some news about Rowena and I thought you should know. My heart sank. What is it? I asked. Theron left her, he said. He left her for another woman. Apparently he's been cheating on her for years. I didn't say anything for a moment. I didn't know what to say. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. Finally, there's more, Llewellyn said. Rowena lost her job. Apparently, Theron was using company funds to pay for their affair, and when the company found out, they fired both of them. I stared at him in disbelief. You're kidding, I said. I wish I were, he said. She's lost everything, Torin, her husband, her job, her reputation. I felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of me felt vindicated. Rowena had gotten what she deserved, but another part of me felt pity. I didn't want her to suffer. I just wanted her to understand the pain she had caused me. I don't know what to say, I said. Just thought you should know, Llewellyn said. Anyway, I gotta run. Take care, Torin. He left and I sat there sipping my coffee, trying to process what I had just heard. Rowena had lost everything. She was alone, jobless, and disgraced. I thought about calling her, offering her some kind of support. But I knew I couldn't. I had to protect myself. I had to move on. A few weeks later, I was at an art gallery, admiring the paintings, when I saw her. She was standing in a corner, looking lost and forlorn. She looked thinner, older, and her eyes were filled with a sadness that cut me to the core. I hesitated for a moment, then walked over to her. Rowena, I said. She looked up, her eyes widening in surprise. Torin, she said, her voice barely audible. How are you? I asked. She shrugged. Not great, she said. I guess you heard. Yes, I said. I heard. We stood there in silence for a moment, then she said, I am so sorry, Torin. I know I hurt you. I know I ruined everything. I just wasn't happy. I know, I said, but that didn't give you the right to betray me. I know, she said. I was selfish. I was stupid. I'll never forgive myself. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw the pain in her eyes. I saw the regret, the remorse. And for the first time, I felt a flicker of forgiveness. I can't forget what you did, Rowena, I said. But I can forgive you. I just hope that one day you can forgive yourself. She started to cry. Thank you, Torin, she said. Thank you. I turned and walked away, leaving her standing there in the corner of the gallery. I didn't look back. I don't know what the future holds for Rowena. I don't know if she'll ever find happiness again. But I do know that I've moved on. I've healed. And I've learned that even the deepest wounds can be healed with time, forgiveness, and a little bit of self-love.